Important day. It is a milestone because it culminates a long journey that women in Kenya have been at. One of the things I'd like to highlight, Alan, is that if you recall, way back in 2010, when Kenyans promulgated this constitution, the provision on gender representation was the very first test that was taken to the Supreme Court. Way back in 2012, just before the 2013 elections, we actually saw the first sign of the Kenyan legislature really acquiring cold feet and really indicating that they're not certain with the coming elections of 2013 that we'd be able to fulfill this provision. They did go to the Supreme Court, and the Honorable CJ then, who was Justice Mutunga, and his bench actually were lenient to the parliament then, and then indicated that they were granted a grace period, additional time, to be able to actualize this, and for the 2013 election, we actually went to it without having this particular provision. One of the things I'd like to highlight, Alan, and I've had my learned friend who's a Senate Chief Whip mention, is that I'd like to correct something he has said. If you look at the Constitution of Kenya 2010, at the 5th schedule, it is very clear on timelines with regard to legislation. And Article 100, which speaks of marginalized groups, including women, grants Parliament 5 years after 2010 to ensure that they have provision, they have legislation that speaks to women, persons with disability, as well as the youth. This is 2020. 5 years extended into the 2015 period. So really we cannot be speaking about lack of timelines when the Constitution at the 5th schedule is very clear. So that is something I need to, at this point, really correct and indicate that Parliament has timelines that are enshrined in the Constitution to enact this provision.
All right, now, in the midst of all these discussions, there seems to be a solution to this whole thing. We're talking about the BBI document. Now, in one of its proposals, it has proposed that parties be compelled through the Political Parties Act to have certain proportions or a portion of their nominations dedicated to women. Now, vis-a-vis going through the normal way of the parliamentary enactments, is this an answer? Is this an answer to this situation now?
It is an answer, Alan, and I think what is important is for Kenyans to understand how we got to this place, because it's very important that over time, women in Kenya have offered themselves for elective positions in this country. However, for various reasons, be it political violence, lack of sufficient political financing, we know politics is expensive, stereotypical attitudes that plague a country that affect both men and women, who might not really view Kenya as, a woman in Kenya as being a good governor, as being a president of this country. And so because of it, the clamor of the women's movement, which included FIDA and very many other sister organizations, is what led us to where we are at. And one of the ways we achieved part of that promise was to have the 47 seats. But if you do the math, the through 49, we still have a gap. And this is where we are calling upon the political parties. Political parties in this country play a huge role. They are really the main vehicle that women get into parliament, men get into parliament. If you look at the major parties in this country, the election is really a rubber stamp of the nomination. The nomination, depending on which demographic you're in, where you land a particular ticket really means, for instance, you are way to go, you're clear to go to get into parliament. And so it was very, very important that we are able to make sure that we have fair play at political party levels. We have the leadership of political parties in this country really giving women a fair chance, be it at the nomination, be it at leadership, be it at where we have party lists to ensure that women really get into parliament. And so it is very important that as we get into this discussion, because it is just beginning, that we are very clear that political parties really, really are one of the main vehicles that guarantee gender equality in this country. And so we are calling upon the political party leadership, especially the main parties, to be very deliberate, to be very clear about creating structures, fair play for women at the nomination stage within the opportunities that arise to go into parliament, so that we have the numbers really being boosted, even as we work on making sure that the legislation that guarantees women the two-thirds numbers is really enacted.
All right, now just allow me to ask you something. Of course, this discussion is something that I've had with my peers and colleagues, and people are talking about maybe the game of politics isn't necessarily meant for women, because people are just outside here saying women are always championing to be given, to be given. And when you talk about politics, it's a game where it's earned, it's not given. So maybe it's not just meant for these people who are there. What are your thoughts on this?
For me, I think that's where we go wrong.
Yes.
I think we need to understand, one, why do we need women in leadership? And two, what's the value of having women in leadership? If you look throughout history, we've even had phenomenal women in this country really offering themselves to be president of this country. We've had, more than 2 ladies offering themselves to be presidents. We've had numerous women coming up at different levels, whether it's at gubernatorial seat, members of parliament, at Senate. And so the starting point is for us to appreciate that women make up more than half of this country. That having been said, women are not asking for free seats. Women are not asking to be rewarded for nothing. Women are asking for fair chance, looking at the factors, the barriers that have really impeded women to get into parliament, and have those addressed. If you look at traditional constituencies, Alan, we've had women who've offered themselves and have really been able to trounce men, not because it was really a competition or a battle of the sexes, but really because their track record speaks up for them. If you look at members like Honorable Millie Mabona, Honorable Alice Wahome, phenomenal women who are able to really trounce men because they have had a development record that speaks for itself. So for us, if you look at how a lot of these women have started,
yes,
having the gender seats is one step, so that once they get in, they're able to understand how politics plays out, and they're able to get out of the, for instance, the special seats or the 47 seats, and they go into traditional constituencies. We've had women at governor level who have been able to really trounce men. We now have two really amazing governors. We lost one, unfortunately. We have Senate women who have been elected. So yes, what we really want Kenyans to understand, and Alan, interestingly, it's not a discussion by men only, even young women. Yes. We need Kenyans to understand what is the link between having more women in leadership and progressive life and development. I'll single out an incident that I can't really muzzle, which is yes, a weekend incident at Pumwani. And this incident was really sad. We have spoken a lot about it as FIDA, as other institutions. But what does it highlight? It highlights the plight of maternal health in this country. Yes. The fact that we need more women in elective positions to legislate progressively. We have a reproductive health bill that speaks a lot about the quality healthcare as articulated in Article 43 yes, with regard to reproductive health. And we speak about it passionately, as I am, because I'm a woman. I understand what it means for that lady to be outside Pumwani and to go through what she did. Yes. And so we are really appealing to Kenyan men and women, and even at the grassroots level, to understand that we are not speaking of this, we're not having this discussion at the capital, for instance, for the sake of it. Okay. We need more women in this country in leadership, because there's a direct link between yes, having the right women and the right men in leadership and yes, progression and development in a country. If you look at the issues that are plaguing us, Alan, look at the strikes, the health strikes that are looming. Yeah. Kenyatta National Hospital is already yes, in one. We need to have people who really understand what does it mean tomorrow or tonight for a lady who's in labor, for a child who needs emergency treatment to show up at Kenyatta Hospital and find that there's a go-slow.
Yes.
So it is important that we appreciate, we are not asking for free seats. Yeah. We have credible, phenomenal women in this country, all the way from MCA level to presidential level, yes, who yes, are willing and ready to offer themselves. What we want is fair play. We want the culture of violence against women, especially during elections in this country, addressed. We want women to be able to access political financing. We want to have policies within political parties, including on matters like such as dispute resolution, right, that would be fair to both men and women, so that whether it's a lady or a man who offer themselves for leadership, okay, they are granted a fair play.
Well, it's a good thing that you've, first and foremost, very well put. Now, it's a good thing you talked about the maternal issue and the incident that happened at the Pumwani Gates, a very sad and unfortunate incident. Now, the NMS came out and released a statement, and they said that particular incident was cause of a go-slow that was being experienced at the hospital. Now, this has elicited mixed reactions between different people, of course. The question is, could there be a chance that it was because there was a go-slow, or there might be something bigger at play that maybe you and I don't know?
Absolutely. I think there is.
Yes.
And this is what we need to remember as Kenyans. Pumwani Hospital is located in the capital city of Kenya. It is within Nairobi. And so thankfully, because we have access to social media, we have access to camera phones and smartphones, this incident was really highlighted. What happens to those rural areas where we have a level 2, a level 3 hospital that's 100 kilometers from a needy woman? We have had numerous accounts as FIDA of women, especially during this COVID-19 pandemic, who have lost their lives because they were not able to access quality and effective emergency maternal care. So what we need to look at is we are actually in a crisis. We are in a health crisis in this country,
yes,
and we have to face it head on. And sadly, the people are the largest casualties are women and children. If you look at a woman who has to access maternal health, she's not really unwell. She is accessing her right,
yes,
right to give life. And so we need to have really full understanding, Alan, of what Article 43 means for us. Article 43 speaks of the highest attainable standard of health. It talks about access to reproductive health. It talks about access to emergency treatment. Have we internalized these principles as policymakers, as legislators, for us to really, one, have deliberate policies and laws that safeguard these provisions, that bring them to life, but secondly, have effective structures that bring out accountability, that
yes,
bring out transparency, and make sure that those who are supposed to deliver these services actually do them in a quality manner, in a timely manner, in an effective manner.
yes.
And so it's important that we look at it from this perspective. What happened over the weekend was really sad. But there are numerous other cases, numerous of them, where we've not captured them on smartphones, they're not on social media, but women in this country are losing life every day. And this is the biggest paradox.
Yes.
We are in a country that's really running multi-billion projects.
Okay.
Infrastructural projects, nothing wrong with it, but
yes,
can we first fix the soft fabric of this country,
yes,
which is really the right to health care? It's a very simple factor of life. And the more we have healthy Kenyans,
okay,
the more we have Kenyans accessing basic health care, including maternal health,
yes,
the better we have a healthy population. And it's all in order to really speak of global projects, to speak of huge projects.
yes,
But let us first start. Charity starts at home. So our rallying call has been this as FIDA. Can the policy makers first start with the software of this country? That's
yes,
the right to health. It's very clear in the law. The Health Act has articulated it.
Okay.
Can we have deliberate resources being channeled into it?
All right, and Ireri, of course, thank you very much for your time. I wish we had more time, but I'm just being told we're out of time. But definitely a lot to talk about on that space, and your time is truly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
That was Anne Ireri, the Executive Director of FIDA Kenya, of course, just shedding more light and putting a voice to the situation surrounding the enactment of the 2/3 gender rule, as well as the incident, the unfortunate incident that occurred at the gates of Pumwani Hospital. That's all the time we had for you right here on K24 Evening Edition. As usual, we've had a nice and a lovely time. My name is Alan Abinadab Owin, and my sign language interpreter for this evening has been Clement Muli. Do enjoy the rest of your evening.